Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. News summary from Moscow program. Today is 26th of November. Now it's 12 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news for this update, and hopefully you will find it news segment informative and interesting, useful. And in that case, please like the video, share with your friends if you can, leave some commentary. This probably will help to deal with the shadow ban with the algorithm and reach wider audience. In case you want to discuss any topic after news segment, please use the super chat feature on Rumble or Rant feature as it called, or any other support platform. Links you can find under this video in description box to send your question or the commentary. And we will have a discussion on that after news segment. And well, basically, that's it. Two members of our community on Patreon and Boosty that maybe didn't receive the update yesterday about second news update that I posted there. I will say it now that I published second news update yesterday, walk and talk type of video, and they might want to check that video. I did film in some nice areas, by the way, so they might like it. And for other members of our community, our bigger community on YouTube and Rumble, I will say if you like my work and want to support her, please join our tiny community on YouTube, on Patreon and Boosty, on Patreon or Boosty, where I have this extra contents on a regular basis. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's start the news update itself now. And firstly, I will report about progress of the Russian armed forces on the line of contact in zone of special military operation. TASS news agency and all the other media outlets here in Russia reported that Russian militaries liberated settlement of Ivanopol in DPR. And let me show you now where this settlement is located. It's southern eastern side of Konstantinovka settlement. This is Konstantinovka city, and this is Ivanopolia village that is under full Russian control now. And well, after finalizing clearing operation basically in Ivanopolia, we should expect a significant acceleration of the Russian offensive operations in direction of Konstantinovka from southern side too. I guess in upcoming days, Russian troops will most likely finalize clearing operation on the northern bank of Libambik Reservoir and will conduct clearing operation in Biristok settlement, which is located on the southern side of Konstantinovka. It just seems logical. When it comes to overall situation on the battlefield, dear friends, let's go sector by sector. In Kherson direction, no general or no major changes at this point. In Zaporozhye sector, Russian troops are conducting offensive operations, as you know, in Orekhov and Gulyai-Pole directions, two major strongholds of Kiev regime in the central and most eastern flanks of this sector. When it comes to Orekhov, Russian troops already entered their Novodanilovka settlement, and I guess there is a high probability that before end of this week, Novodanilovka will be under full Russian control. And at that point, well, we might argue that offensive on Orekhov has begun. When it comes to Gulyai-Pole, Russian troops already are inside the Gulyai-Pole, according to a number of sources, and are in control of some districts in the southeastern side of the city. All the settlements from northern to eastern side around Gulyai-Pole are under, or southern side, by the way, for that matter, are under Russian control already. In Dnipropetrovsk direction, Russian troops are basically finalizing clearing operations in recently liberated settlements, and the bridgehead of that Russian troops created in Dnipropetrovsk is quite significant. All this red line that you see, dear friends, it's a border with Dnipropetrovsk region, and you can see on your screen right now that dozens of settlements dozens of settlements already being liberated by Russian troops in this direction. And if you remember, I have said quite a number of times before that when order comes for Russian troops to launch sectoral scale offensive in Dnipropetrovsk region, I think Russian advances will be extremely rapid, incomparably fast than we observe in DPR, for example. Not just because Kiev regime's forces are collapsing and are on the edge of breakdown, complete breakdown, but also because, unlike DPR, Dnipropetrovsk region was not fortified as much by Western-backed terrorist regime in Kiev after 2014 coup d'etat. And also, we should keep in mind that Dnipropetrovsk region is significantly less urbanized than DPR. It's a steppe area. Dnipropetrovsk region mainly is a steppe area. There is not that many settlements to turn them into some major strongholds. And therefore, for this and many other reasons, I expect once order comes to launch offensive, sectoral scale offensive in Dnipropetrovsk region, Russian troops will achieve tremendous success, significant success in much lesser time than we see Russian offensives develop in Zaporozhye sector, for example, in Donetsk People's Republic or LPR for that matter. But to continue on line of contact, in DPR, of course, Pokrovsk Mirnograd still makes headlines. Clearing operation continues in Pokrovsk city, which is under Russian control, but some pockets of resistance still are there in the city. Some small groups are trapped, and Russian troops are, after offering surrender, if enemy forces surrender, that's one story. If not, then of course actions are taken to neutralize the hostile. In Mirnograd direction, reports are that southern part of Mirnograd is almost completely under Russian control now, and Russian troops are basically reaching central areas of the Mirnograd in the northern bigger part of their city or main body of their city. And well, I can say that Russian troops are in central areas because number of sources are sharing videos in which allegedly four Russian militaries being captured by Kiev regime's forces in the central part of this northern Mirnograd, right approximately in this area that you see this icon. And if a video is not AI generated, if video is real, then well, how Russian troops end up in the central Mirnograd, by the way. That means Russian troops are conducting offensive operations and are already reaching central areas of the city. And unfortunately, there is a probability that there might be casualties, even significant casualties during this offensive, during this clearing operation of the city. And there are some Russian militaries may be captured. This is high-intensity war, and anything can happen. We should keep in mind that thousands of troops of Kiev regime are trapped in this main body of the Mirnograd, northern part of the city. I cannot tell how long it will take before Russian troops will finalize clearing operation in Mirnograd, but they should take time, and they will, right? Why should they risk lives? It's better to move slowly but surely, right? Take whatever time is necessary. Also, reports are coming in that on a breakthrough area on the northern side of Pokrovsk Mirnograd, Russian troops not just established control over the Shakhovo, but already conducting offensive operations in Sofievka and Taretsk settlement areas. The Russian Defense Ministry did not share any update on this development, but independent sources are reporting about progress of the Russian troops in this area. I already reported about Ivanopolia, settlement that was liberated in past 24 hours by Russian troops on the southeastern side of Konstantinovka. When it comes to Seversk direction, your friends, reports are coming in that Russian troops launched offensive operation in Seversk inside the city itself, from northern and eastern side too. And the Russian troops are now in the northern and eastern districts of the town. Russian troops for more than a week now are controlling some southern districts of their city. So we are observing significant activization of offensive operations inside the Seversk itself. Simultaneously, Russian troops advancing in between Seversk and Liman, improving their positions on daily basis and establishing control over all the settlements that are located there. Clearing operation is being finalized in Platonovka, and I guess in next several days we will receive reports about not just beginning of the clashes for Zakatna settlement, but most likely Russian troops will establish full control over the Zakatna before end of this week. Let's see how will the situation develop. And when it comes to Liman, also reports are coming in about another direction that Russian troops entered the city. Earlier we had reports that Russian troops established control of this forestry area on the eastern side, southern eastern side of Liman, and entered the city from most eastern portion, most eastern side. And in past 24 hours, reports came in that Russian troops established control over this tiny forestry lines that you see on your screen now, and entered city's almost central part, and established their presence there. So battle for Liman has already begun, we can argue. When it comes to Kharkov direction, well, Russian troops continue to finalize clearing operation on the eastern side of Oskol River, or left bank of the Oskol River. But yet again, Russian troops are taking time. It's a difficult terrain in this area, especially close to river banks. And there is no reason for Russian troops to hurry. They will take whatever time is necessary to basically either force hostiles to surrender, lay down arms and surrender, or Russian troops will just neutralize them. There were many attempts, reports about many attempts of encircled Kiev regime's troops on the left bank of Oskol to escape from the encirclement. Some small groups probably are managing to do so, but bigger units have no chances basically, and best they can do is to actually surrender. And when it comes to northern part of Kharkov region, main developments are happening in Volchansk, Vilcha area. Earlier I reported that Kiev regime was urgently deploying its reserves, whatever reserves they can find in Vilcha direction, to somehow slow down Russian progress. I don't think this will help her, but we already are receiving reports that Russian Air Force, Russian long-range artillery began pounding positions of the Kiev regime in Vilcha settlement, and this is artillery preparation, large-scale artillery preparation, after which usually Russian ground forces are moving in. So therefore, we should expect some significant developments in this area in next 24 to 48 hours, after which Defense Ministry probably will share with us information that Vilcha settlement is being liberated. And this is it for a shorter summary of the developments on line of contact. I remind you, dear friends, that there is plenty of military channels, mappers, and so on, that are providing much greater volume of information, detailed information on developments on the battlefield. And if by chance you are not familiar with those channels, in my older videos, by the way, if you can check them, I had links of dozens of channels that I follow. Lately, I stopped publishing those links because no other channels are doing this, right? And But anyways, in my older videos, under the older videos, you can find links to some of those military channels. Anyways, okay, that's been said. Let's continue with some other news. Now I'm gonna turn off the map to make sure that notebook not gonna crash under the weight of so many windows and stuff, programs. And the next information that I want to share with you is about Russian Su-57 fighter jet, dear friends. I know main topic of discussion last week also in MSM and also in alternative media is this Trump's 28, then 19, then 22-point so-called peace plan, and I will get to that topic, of course. But first, I want to share some other news also. And well, we have this report this morning that Russian Su-57 fifth-gen fighter jets have proven themselves as successful platforms in a new type of combat missions. This information is coming from Chemizov, head of Rostec, Russian state-run corporation that oversees their military-industrial complex. Let me give you some details now. And the fifth generation Su-57 fighter jets of the Russian aerospace forces surpass its counterparts in several characteristics and continue to be improved. It has successfully demonstrated its stealth capabilities in their air defense zone. Rostec CEO Sergei Chemizov told the TASS news agency in an interview, and I want to share this news with you, dear friends, because usually whenever there is discussions about fifth-gen fighter jets that are, in air forces right now, that is US F-22, F-35, Chinese J-20, J-35, and Russian Su-57. There is always talks that Russian Su-57 is more agile than any other fifth-gen fighter jet, but less stealthy. And could be true, by the way. F-22 probably are more, features more stealth characteristics. Possibly F-35 is also more stealthy than Su-57, but there was always kind of attempt on the side of Western propaganda to mock Su-57 as not really stealth plane. And therefore, I think it is important to share, to know this information that is coming from CEO of Rostec, Chemizov, that Su-57s proved themselves in a zone of special military operation where, you guessed, air defense systems and radars of which countries are operating. It's a NATO countries mainly at this point, right? There is no longer much Soviet-era air defense systems in hands of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. Nowadays, Kiev regime is mainly operating with their Western-made Patriot air defense systems, Iris-T air defense systems, and some others, right? And if Su-57s prove their stealth characteristics in areas of operation of Patriots and Iris-Ts, that means that these planes are, stealthy enough, at least, right? So this is something of importance, I think, something to pay attention to. And of course, some planes going to be more stealthy than others. I think all this hype around stealth technology is just a BS, right? Because progress in miniaturization of long-wave radars is tremendous, and soon the stealth plane is going to be no any less visible than ordinary, like, fourth-generation fighter jets, let's say. Also, we should keep in mind that Russian Air Force prioritizes jamming of their enemy tracking systems, and also Russian aerospace industry was very effective in adopting technologies in the Russian fighter jets that are, for example, unique, in many ways unique for Russian, Soviet, and Russian aerospace forces, which is, for example, infrared scanning of their airspace, right? F-22 might be stealthy plane for shortwave radars, but it's not going to be stealthy for infrared scanners, right? Because no matter coating, when anything moves in an atmosphere with a high speed, it generates heat. It just generates heat. That's physics, by the way. You cannot go around it, right? Until you will learn how to, disturb the, manipulate with the gravity for example, right? That's a whole new level of physics that we are nowhere close, right? Currently, nothing can hide from heat from infrared scanners, and Russian fighter jets scan for tens of miles around, right? And once something is detected, a plane of enemy, for example, then, well, tracking programming and targeting programs are there. Fire solution will be in hands of pilots, and they will launch missile and neutralize the enemy, right? But anyways, I just wanted to highlight that Russian Su-57s prove their stealth capabilities too in a zone of special military operation, where right now mainly Western air defense systems are operating. And also rumors are, dear friends, that Su-57 has longest kill ever in air-to-air fight. It's a speculation. Some are saying that it was MiG-31 that intercepted the Kiev regime's fighter jets some 200 miles away or something, or longer than that. And there are also rumors that it was our Su-57 actually that did it. But operations of Su-57, as in general, Russian aerospace forces are classified mainly, and maybe only after special military operation ends, we will learn some more about it. But I think interesting news from Chemizov. I can give you a quote. Also, the aircraft continues to be improved. The work is underway for the future towards the comprehensive modernization. This will affect the components, electronics, and the weapons. The fighter already surpasses its counterparts in many characteristics, and with their further improvements, their gap in its favor will only widen. Unlike its foreign counterparts, it has been tested in all combat scenarios. It operated in Syria and is currently operating over the air defense zone that Kiev regime is creating. It has successfully demonstrated its capabilities in combat missions new to operational tactical aviation, and has confirmed the effectiveness of its stealth capabilities. The agency source said. Chemizov called criticism of the aircraft abroad a reflection of competition, noting the high price it received, from foreign partners and Russian pilots. And Su-57 is a beast, by the way. It's the best-looking fighter jet ever created, for sure, right? And definitely best dogfighter ever created, especially among fifth gens, by the way. No fifth gen fighter jet in existence can compete with Su-57 in a dogfighter. I guess Su-57 will kill as many F-22 Raptors, by the way, American most agile fighter jet, as their missiles will be in a bay of short range missiles will be in the bay of 57, and as long as it will have still rounds in a gun. That's it. I'm not sure F-22 even has a gun, by the way. According to reports, F-35 at least some modifications, so we don't even have a gun, if any. It's definitely not a dogfighter, by the way. Su-57 will mock F-35 any day, right? Okay, that's been said. Let's continue with some other news. And interesting reports. I spoke about this yesterday during the second news update for our Patreon and Boosty community, that we received basically additional confirmations. Additional indicators and confirmations that recent stories about Russian drones penetrating Polish airspace in big number, like it was 20 drones or something, was a false flag operation orchestrated by Western secret services with assistance of their proxy Kiev regime. And we have a confirmation of this report because right now you see on your screen, your friends, a Russian Gerbera drone that miraculously landed on the roof of some building in Moldova without exploding, without smashing or crashing into pieces, right? Without even damaging the roof itself. And these photos were shared by Kiev regime's propaganda outlets as a confirmation that Russian drones violated Moldova's airspace. And well, you see on your screen here, there is numbers, isn't it, on a drone? There is some numbers below this Z. There is some numbers, and Russian bloggers with the connections with the militaries, according to reports that I see, tracked this drone, tracked life cycle of this drone, and you know what they find out? They find out that this drone was launched on 18 of November in the Kharkov region. These photos on 18th of November, by the way, in the Kharkov region. Gerbera drone in no circumstances can fly from Kharkov region to Moldova. It's just not possible. It will crash, right? It has no fuel tanks to reach this far. But what is interesting, no drone, not this type or any other type of drone, as far as I'm concerned, can fly 5 days straight, right? So obviously, while sharing these photos, Kiev regime's propaganda outlets basically debunked claims of the Polish authorities and the authorities of all the other NATO member states about Russian drones penetrating their airspace. And they debunked it because in this particular case, it is obvious that this drone, Gerbera drone, failed somewhere in Kiev control territory, probably on 18th of November. Most likely it was used as a decoy or a reconnaissance drone and did not have a warhead in it, right? And possibly just ran out of fuel and just glide to the ground. It was then taken by Kiev regime, and together with the terrorist regime in Moldova, led by Sandu, they come up with this nonsensical false flag operation. They put this drone on the roof of whatever building, right? And then began claiming that, well, Russian drones violated Moldova's airspace, which is total nonsense, right? Yet again, Russian bloggers with their connections with the military tracked this drone based on these numbers, right? And they reported that drone was launched on 18th in the Kharkov region. So that's how stupid, by the way, Western so-called elites and their proxies really are. That they think with these cheap provocations, they can fool world community. They might be able to fool Western societies in general, right? Majority of the Western societies, because those societies being brainwashed already, right? And they will take anything. You throw at them any nonsense, they will take it happily, right? Because they are no longer able of critical thinking. There is only tiny minorities in the Western world that are well informed, but unfortunately they have no influence on the matters, right? Not now, at least. Rest, by the way, is completely zombified, but and they could believe in this crap. But when it comes to rest of the world, by the way, no one gonna be fooled by this nonsense, isn't it? And I'm sharing this report to you just to demonstrate once again that that story in Poland with a dozen of Russian drones allegedly crossing border and somehow landing also on the roofs of different buildings and on the fields without exploding, without even damaging the grass on the field. I mean, I just want to prove that story was false flag operation, as I said it from the beginning. And definitely it is the case, right? And well, now let's talk about this Trump's 28, then 19, then 22-point peace plan, because everybody is talking about this stuff, by the way. It's not really interesting to me personally. It's a total nonsense and waste of time to discuss anything around this story. But because everybody literally in MSM, in alternative media talks about this stuff, well, I have to pay attention to it also, I guess. And at least I will share my takes on these reports, right? And so reports are, dear friends, that Ukraine allegedly, or Kiev regime, let's say, because Zelensky and his criminal associates do not represent Ukraine, they represent Western ruling class, actually, globalists. But anyways, Kiev regime allegedly has accepted the terms of the potential US brokered peace deal. ABC News reports citing American officials. ABC itself is, of course, US propaganda mean. The Ukrainians have agreed to peace deal, US officials said. There are some minor details to be sorted out, but they have agreed to their peace deal. This is quote, by the way, right? Which is quite interesting. And right now, Anya dropped a screenshot of around or super chat on Rumble from Scooby, and of course, I will highlight this after news segment. Thank you very much, Scooby, for being active member of our community, for being this very supportive. Thank you for your attention, and I will highlight your commentary in our after news segment, of course. And there was also a question from a member of our community on Patreon, Pelicek, and I will answer to his question too. And there was also a donation on PayPal from Bald Eagle. So thank you very much for your support, dear friends. And so let me continue with this topic of so-called Trump's peace deal. So yes, Ukraine or Kiev regime allegedly agrees to Trump's proposal plan. Although question is on which one? Originally, there was a 28-point plan. Then reports came in that after Geneva talks between U.S. delegation, European globalists or leadership, European leadership, and Kiev regime, this plan was transformed into a 19-point plan. And yesterday, Trump said that it's a 22-point plan now. Not 19, not 28, but 22. Okay, it's a joke, man. It's a freaking joke, right? But anyways, what I can tell you, and I mentioned this in a headline too, seems like U.S. ruling class is emboldened enough to kind of issue ultimatum to Kiev regime and its globalist backers. And seems like U.S. ruling class is ready to jump off this proxy war. They participate in this deception operation alongside globalists, right? But they knew from the beginning that it would not work. Of course, they would not be able to fool Russia. And I think Plan B of Washington was then to use this failed deception operation to pull out U.S. from this proxy war and focus more on other directions. And that's exactly what they might do, actually. They need this. I said many times in previous updates that Washington is desperate to receive any guarantees from Moscow that Russia will not seek state revenge on U.S. on the state level if and when U.S. will attack either Venezuela or any other country in Caribbean or elsewhere, right? And I think current activization of Washington is related to that. Current activity of Washington is more related to their plans in regards to Caribbean and the general confrontation, geopolitical confrontation with China than with Ukraine. But anyways, let's go news topic by topic. RIA Novosti is reporting that Zelensky allegedly wants to meet with Trump to agree on a plan. This was reported originally by Axios. Vladimir Zelensky may meet Donald Trump on November 27 to agree on the terms for settlement in Ukraine. Axios report citing Andrei Yermak, head of the Kyiv regime's office. And what is interesting, some journalists from presidential poll in US are reporting that Trump does not has in his schedule meeting with Zelensky, and more than that, Trump himself, while talking to journalists on Air Force One, I guess, on airplane, said that he wants a deal from Zelensky before he will visit Washington. And I can share with you short video, dear friends, of this statement of Trump. It's audio, actually, not a video.
What would you like to know today?
Could you start off by telling us the latest one with Russia and Ukraine? Are you, expecting Zelensky to come visit you?
We're having good, I don't know, he would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first. We're having good talks. We started with Russia. We're having some talks with Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end. And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
What are the big
We
sticking?
settled 8 wars, and I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin. But this is probably one of the more difficult ones. There's a lot of hatred.
You said there were a few points of disagreement that were still left to be. Can you tell us what those are? What the points of disagreement?
Standard things, but people are starting to realize it's a good deal for both parties, and they got to stop the war. They're losing a lot of people, a lot of soldiers, mostly soldiers.
In that 28-point plan that was originally leaked.
So you can see, dear friends, in the beginning of this audio, Trump himself said that Zelensky should agree first on the plan and then go to Washington. Maybe this will happen, who knows, but I'm skeptical of that. I think globalist control regimes in Europe, first of all, are the so-called coalition of willing, and subsequently Kyiv regime gonna make a U-turn in next 24 to 48 hours, and at that point, probably it will become clear that ruling class in US will use this breakdown in the talks as an off-ramp to pull out US from this proxy war. Then behind the closed doors, probably Washington will agree with Moscow on serious concessions. Information may never get disclosed to public, but Washington will agree, I'm quite sure, on serious concessions. And that is that. Moscow probably will promise US ruling class that Russia will seek no revenge on state level against US in that case, right? Either in Latin America or elsewhere, at least until US will initiate hostilities again. So let's see how things gonna develop. But I think globalists and their proxy Kyiv regime that are playing nice, trying to play nice with Washington for now, they're gonna do U-turn in next day or two. But anyways, let's and that will be used by Washington to get off this conflict because they need it. American ruling class is desperate to get out of this war, right? At this point, because they know Russia has won, right? And they know without they know how much harmful Russian revenge can be and will be on US if Washington will not find solution with Russia in regards to very many topics that not necessarily have to be discussed openly, but will be discussed behind the closed doors, and there are discussed. I'm quite sure about it. And I mentioned, by the way, that Trump announced that he had reduced his peace plan for Ukraine to 22 points. Okay. Washington has reduced the number of points in the draft peace settlement in Ukraine from 28 to 22, many of which have been resolved favorably, US President Donald Trump said. Yet again, by the way, there are so many talks about this 22, 28, 19 point plan, while Moscow has said nothing yet. You noticed it, this isn't it? It seems like Western elites are just talking among each other and negotiating among each other, while Moscow is just observing, and probably Russian leadership is kind of laughing at these morons that are in charge, formally at least, of the Western world. What are you discussing, man, without us? What the hell, right? Although there was reports that yesterday in Abu Dhabi, meeting between U.S. delegation and Russian delegation was successful. Okay, maybe whatever that successful means, but nevertheless, to initiate high-level talks, I guess, with Russian side, Trump yesterday posted on his Truth Social that he instructed Witkoff, his special envoy, to meet with the Russian president in Moscow. I never understood why Russian president is giving this much attention to Witkoff. This is not his level, right? Who the hell is Witkoff, man? Freaking nobody that represents nobody, right? But and therefore Witkoff should have a talks with the deputy of the deputy of the deputy of the Russian foreign minister, right? Or some low-level diplomat in Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's the level on which Witkoff should be engaged from Russian side. It's too much attention and respect was given to these low-level life forms that Trump and Witkoff are. Despicable human beings, absolutely, if we can call them humans at all, right? But yes, he instructed Witkoff to come to Moscow and have a talks with Putin. Hopefully, Putin will say he's too busy, right? And assistant of his deputy will find the hour, maybe, to have a talks with Witkoff, because yet again, U.S. has to capitulate. There is no much to discuss. Washington has to capitulate, agree on Russian terms. That's it. In that case, Moscow may not seek revenge on the U.S. on the state level, right? Otherwise, anywhere U.S. will go with the war, gonna turn, any place U.S. will attack, gonna turn into a graveyard for U.S. Militaries and their U.S. intelligence and U.S. interests in general, period. And I'm all for that, by the way. I'm absolutely in supporter of revenging on U.S. and all the other NATO member states that were directly engaged in this war against Russia. That's how our enemies should be treated. You know, we should seek revenge always. Blood for blood, by the way. That's it. That's it. I don't want no agreement to happen between Russia and US, actually. I prefer us to go on a revenge. And once we will kill as many Americans as they kill Russians, then let's talk. Then let's talk, man. Blood for blood, life for life. That should be the keystone principle always. And then no one will mess around with you when they know that you're going to revenge in the harshest possible way. That's how Russia should act. Revenge on all of them, man. Let's kill them all, man. RIA Novosti is reporting that Ushakov, meanwhile, spoke about the visit of U.S. administration representatives to Moscow. This is Witkoff, this freaking dog, man, or pig. A White House special envoy, Steve Witkoff, will visit Russia along with the representatives of the U.S. administration presidential aide, Yuri Ushakov announced. Witkoff, will came to Moscow next week. He and a number of other administration officials involved in Ukraine affairs. He told the Russia One journalist Pavel Zarubin, who published an excerpt of their conversation on his Telegram channel. Okay, they will come and they will capitulate. But yet again, on a personal level, as a human, I would prefer Russia to revenge on Americans. I would prefer Russia to revenge on Brits, on French, on Germans, on Italians, on everybody, literally on Poles, on everybody, by the way, on Baltic Chihuahuas, life for life, blood for blood. Once we will revenge on them, once we will bring the pain to them, right? On the same scale or 10 times more than they did to us. At that point, let's have a talk, man. But before that, I'm not in favor of no talks, man. You know, because we have to teach them a lesson. And we will. We will, because I'm telling you, man, Western elite should prey on Putin day in, day out, 24 hours, because how tolerant Putin is. A next Russian president may not be this tolerant, right? And should not be this tolerant. Hopefully, that's going to be the case, man. This tolerance is being seen by our enemies as a weakness, right? And we cannot be weak. We cannot allow anybody to think that we are weak, because we are not, man. But if we leave such an impression, then you see even Baltic Chihuahuas are barking non-stop. Even Baltic Chihuahuas are barking non-stop, for God's sake. I mean, how crazy is that? And all because they are interpreting Russian restraint, Russian politeness, Russian diplomacy as a weakness. And some members of our community may not like my strong words, by the way, about revenge and stuff, but at least even they will agree that that's exactly what happened. Russian restraint was interpreted by the West, even by those Baltic Chihuahuas, as Russia's weakness. Am I correct on that? And the only way we can put the Western elites in their place is to retaliate, and retaliate hard, man. We have to bring the pain to those motherfuckers, man, to make sure that they will never ever mess around Russia, to make sure that they will know what will happen to them if they even try. That's how things work, man, in this world, right? Let's not kid ourselves. That's how humanity operated from the beginning and will continue to operate. We are still humans, man. We are not some imaginary creatures that are, living in some freaking utopia. No, man. There is a certain rules that persist through history. You have to be strong, always. Otherwise, you're going to be eaten. That's it. And as I said, number of Western media outlets reported that talks that took place in United Arab Emirates or in Abu Dhabi, for example, between Russian and US delegations were allegedly successful. Secretary Driscoll and his team have been negotiating with the Russian side, Army Secretary in US. Driscoll and his team have been negotiating with the Russian side to secure lasting peace in Ukraine. The talks are progressing well, and we remain optimistic. Driscoll is coordinating closely with the White House and the other U.S. agencies. This was said by Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Tolbert, that probably is presented there. So, okay, maybe those talks were, successor in some ways. We will find out soon. But yet again, right now, as far as I can tell, situation is as I will describe now. Sorry for my English, man. I struggle to translate or to find the right words, man, whenever I want to share some opinions. But anyways, I think that's what is happening. U.S. ruling class understands that this war that West is waging against Russia is lost. They understand this, right? They also understand that without securing Russia's non-involvement in a potential U.S. aggression against anybody, Venezuela or Cuba or anybody, on the side of countries that US will attack, that might cause US defeat too, right? Strategical defeat, because US is not as strong as some people think, by the way, right? I'm quite sure US Navy, US militaries already are struggling. They are how long now? This mass of forces, amassed forces in Caribbean and they're in the Gulf of Mexico. How long are they there? Like months already. And I'm quite sure not just logistics has become an issue for them, but also exhaustion of the militaries. This gender dysphoria, those militaries that many of whom are struggling with even gender dysphoria, you think are that tough to stay indefinitely in their positions? No, they are not, by the way. US military is a weak military. It's not a strong military, right? Take a look at the videos, by the way. Half of them are freaking obese, man. How they been taken in the military in the first place? I don't know, but okay, that's a whole different story. So Washington knows they have to pull out the country from this proxy war. They can do it only one way. If while saving face, and that way is to basically blame everything on Europe now. And that's why they participated originally in this deception operation, that they come up together with the globalists with 28-point plan and stuff, although they knew straight away that at some point talks will break down, and this exactly will happen in next few days, right? Then Washington will use this breakdown of the talks as to blame it for on Europe, on globalists, right, and to pull out US. Same time, they will seek from Russia guarantees, after they will agree on the concessions before Russia, guarantees that Russia will not revenge on US on state level. And unfortunately, Moscow probably will give them such guarantees until US will resume hostilities against Russia. But that only means that Russia will seek no revenge on a state level. Private Russian military companies, private groups of interest probably will be free to operate in any way they find necessary to revenge for their comrades, for their brothers and sisters, right, that were killed from the hands of US militaries and by weapons that US militaries provided. So that's what is going to happen. And after that, US will launch, shortly after this agreement will be reached between Washington and Moscow, US will launch offensive on Venezuela. If, for whatever reasons, globalists will manage to derail these plans of Washington, and I will get to that point, they will try. They will try for sure. They are already trying, by the way. But if globalists will derail these plans of Washington to get out of this war against Russia, in that case, of course, there will be no agreement between Moscow and Washington, and the US will go ahead with military operation anyways against Venezuela. And I'm telling you, man, Venezuelan people will turn Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean Sea into a graveyard of US Navy. And they will turn, Venezuelan people will turn the land of Venezuela as a graveyard for American militaries. And they will do it with help of their friends. And there is not even slight chance, not even theoretical chance that US will beat the Venezuela, that US will win that war. No. US will be decimated and embarrassed on a scale that Washington has never experienced before. Yes, Afghanistan was a tremendous debacle and tremendous humiliation of US and all of Western world, basically, right? But Venezuela going to be like 10 times worse, potentially. Yet again, if globalists manage to derail plans that American ruling class has now, and if they will manage to keep US in this proxy war against Russia. let's see how things gonna develop. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister of Russian Federation Lavrov confirmed basically that Russia has received Trump's plan through unofficial channels and is ready to discuss specific wording. He clarified that Russia has Trump's 28-point plan and has not seen other versions. And yet again, by the way, one more confirmation or indicator that all this Trump 28 peace plan was a part of deception operation from the get-go. One more indicator is that they are changing it just too freaking much. They come up with this operation rapidly. Probably they were rushing this because take a look at the developments on the battlefield. Reason why globalists and neocons were in a hurry is that Kyiv regime is collapsing. Kyiv regime's defense lines are collapsing. Kyiv regime's armed forces are on the brink of collapse, right? And they are desperate. First of all, globalists and their neocon allies, they are desperate to somehow fool Russia again and gain some break for themselves and for their proxy, to rearm them, reorganize them, right? To prepare them as much as possible for a next round of hostilities. So they were in a hurry when they come up with this deception operation, and that's why they are changing it literally on daily basis, right? And Lavrov highlights that I mean, we have 28-point plans, so-called, but they don't really know anything about others, and there is plenty of other plans, right, out there. So he clarified that Russia has Trump's 28-point plan and has not seen other versions. The West wants to distort Trump's plan and undermine efforts for a settlement, he said. And in some ways, he's correct, by the way. Of course, globalists, Lavrov and Russian politicians using different language, obviously. They are politicians, public figures. They cannot use language that I do. I am just a citizen, by the way, ordinary citizen, citizen journalist. I feel free to use any language I want, right? And I call them as they are, man, the globalists, right? Mass murderers, terrorists. That's what Western elites in general are. And so, yes, globalists want, I just spoke about it, isn't it? That globalists want to derail idea that American ruling class has to pull out the country from this proxy war, to seek then some agreement with Russia so that they will feel free to go ahead with their operation against Venezuela, against Cuba. And by the way, you might say, why Venezuela? What's going on in Latin America? And point is, by the way, that to US to be more or less effective in terms of not to defeat China in a geopolitical struggle, time for that has passed long ago. US will never defeat China. Let's be real on that. But at least to have a chance to maintain relevance on a geopolitical scale, US have to act. And to act means US have to, that's the, I think, thinking process in American elites, right? American ruling class. So to deter China somehow, to maintain their relevance on geopolitical scale, they probably think, they have to put everything in order in their backyard first. And they consider Latin America to be their backyard. Monroe Doctrine is all about that. And there is numerous countries, by the way, in Latin America that are in last several decades gain significant level of independence from the Washington, right? And that's what is happening. It's ideological stuff, not just economical, but it's more like ideological stuff. They want to dominate. They want to dominate Southern Hemisphere, Latin America, push out China from there, right, as much as possible, and then focus more on the global South. where chances of America is slim to none, right? But at least eventually Beijing and Washington might reach agreement that, you know what, global South is your sphere of interest, and North and South Americas are our sphere of interest. That's what final deal might look like between Beijing and Washington after everything will settle. But before that, it's gonna be harsh, man. They're gonna have a Cold War on steroids, U.S. and China, right? But anyways, Lavrov was quite clear that there is certain forces in the West that want to derail these plans of Washington, which is correct. RIA Novosti also reporting that Europe had a chance to contribute to resolving the crisis in Ukraine, and they missed that opportunity. And Lavrov commented on this because European elites are whining about why they are not playing like leading role. And they are not playing leading role because they are nobodies, man. Right? They are nobodies. So, European aristocracy, that is a backbone of the globalist movement, is struggling with the realization that times when they were dominant force in this world is long gone. They are loosely relevant right now and going to become completely irrelevant in 20, 30 years. And they are struggling to wrap their minds around this inevitability, right? They're still acting as if they are like on the top of their game, but they are not, man. Who the hell is, let's say, French President Macron, man? I mean, honestly, who the hell is French President Macron, man? What he represents? France is destroyed, right? France is destroyed. Well, France, as we knew it, is no longer even exists, man. When my grandfather's generation said France, he meant France. When I'm saying France, I mean this land of chaos, right? Because France now is just a loosely controlled freaking territory where no one is safe, right? And no one has a future. That's what France is. What about Germany? Is it any different? Is it any different, really, from France? No, probably even situation is even worse in Germany. And what about UK, man? People are going crazy. But British people themselves cannot recognize their own country, right? And they are quite vocal about it, And they are no racist, no haters of anybody. They just want their freaking country to be preserved, their culture to be preserved, right? You cannot call people Nazis and the fascists just because they want to preserve their cultural sphere that they were born and grown up. This is not a Nazis. Nazis mean when you actually freaking hate everybody, right? And want to kill everybody. But if you want to protect yourself and your world, this is okay, nothing wrong with that. But yet again, European aristocracies, by the way, had different ideas. They never cared about these peasants. That's how they see ordinary people, by the way. Peasants, man. They never cared about peasants, right? They had different views how they're going to control world, and how they're going to maintain relevance of European part of Eurasian continent, for example. One of the ways is to artificially boost their population, right? That's what their plan was. And that's what American political class is doing too, by the way. They're trying to artificially boosting population to somehow compete with China or India. That is going to become a global superpower, by the way, economical superpower in next 30, 40 years, right? By 2070, India going to be bigger than US and EU combined, right? Nothing to be said about China. And one of the reasons is population, right? And therefore, these European aristocracies that are backbone of globalist movement, well, they come up with this idea they're going to open borders. They happily participate in destruction of entire regions in this world, while they knew perfectly well that tens of millions of people from those destroyed countries gonna rush towards Europe, towards Americas, right? That's exactly what happened. They did not calculate it, though, because they are stupid. They failed to calculate everything properly. They missed. They never understood that the process of integration of newcomers into local societies will take, when it's artificially done, by the way, will take either decades or will never be successful. And that's exactly what happened. These incomers never actually, majority of them never actually even try to become a part of local societies, man. No, they created their own societies, right? Their own worlds inside these European worlds, right? And now you have like autonomous areas all over the European countries, right? Where in some cases even police is not going in because they're freaking afraid. Am I correct? So it did not work. These plans of globalists did not really work, right? And these processes will only accelerate their final demise, those elites in the West. Anyways, let me. But yet again, they're struggling to wrap their mind around all this stuff, and continue act as if they are if they have some sort of relevance. And for example, French President Macron, who is hated by French people at this point, actually hated, by the way. So Macron suddenly decided that his opinion matters, and Russia will, for whatever reason, will suddenly agree to deployment of the foreign contingents into Ukraine after military hostilities will cease. We have quotes here. After signing the peace agreement, backup forces will be deployed away from the front line in places like Kiev and Odessa. Kiev or Odessa, Macron said. They will include British, French, and Turkish soldiers whose command will be carried out through an intergovernmental coalition, not NATO, and there was a role will be to train Ukrainian forces and assist in ensuring security and defense. Do I have to comment on this? We all understand this is total nonsense, right? Moscow will never agree on that, period, no matter what they're going to call these troops, by the way. European troops or deterrent forces or these forces or that forces, it's NATO forces. It's a hostile forces for Russia. And Moscow will never agree on that, period. And I said, dear friends, right, these talks gonna break down, of course. US will pull out. Most likely, US will pull out from this proxy war. Globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe will end up face-to-face with Russia, and that's gonna be shocking for them, of course, right? But nevertheless, conflict, they will manage to prolong this conflict for another year or so, maybe a year and a half, right? And all this time, Russia will move forward and forward and forward. Russian troops are on the battlefield, and eventually, when Russian troops, I spoke about this yesterday too, and many times before, when Russian troops will reach the borders of the Western Ukraine, at that point, I guess, globalists will finally capitulate. At that point, globalists probably will finally capitulate because they will realize that either they're gonna find some agreement with Russia now, when Russian troops are on the borders with the Western Ukraine, which is going to be packed, by the way, that western part of Ukraine at that point going to be packed with their well-armed, well-trained, battle-hardened, Nazi freaking formations, by the way. That's who's gonna survive most, those Nazis, by the way, right? Because they are not in a hurry to die on the front lines. You have noticed that, isn't it? They are participating in operations. Don't get me wrong, but not as intensively as other combat units of the Q regime. So they are gaining some battle experience for sure. They are well armed. They have some training, and they definitely are more capable than units of any NATO country, by the way, right? And so once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, at that point, globalists will realize that Western Ukraine is going to become a massive headache for them, right? Massive headache. And they will have to capitulate. They will have to find their agreement with Russia so that Moscow will, will maybe even assist to neutralize those Nazi forces in Western Ukraine, or will at least not use them now against Europe, because tables might turn, man, right? And those Ukrainian Nazi formations in that case, when they will become a major issue for the NATO, for the Euro, well, they might be used as a proxy, of course, by certain groups, not by Russian government, but by certain groups, independent groups, let's say, here in Russia, to harm Europe as much as possible. You see what's going on? So once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, global is going to capitulate straight away. And they're going to have a whole nightmare ahead of them while dealing with the Western Ukraine, man. Ukrainian Nazism, Ukrainian fascism, Ukrainian terrorism, well, Europeans going to learn quite a lot about all that stuff. And this is a matter of 1.5, 2 years from now. That's what is going to happen. Now, of course, globalists always have an opportunity to capitulate. They can capitulate today. That will be great, right? But they're not going to do it. They will try to prolong this conflict, this proxy war, to the last moment, right? Because they are struggling to face the reality. That's the issue. They are cowards. They are struggling to face the reality. They cannot. They are just too freaking afraid. And therefore, by the way, we should expect tensions between European elites and the US ruling class to significantly increase. And process is already underway and visible, right? Visible. And on this topic, we have this report, for example, that comes from Politico, that US allegedly, US State Secretary Rubio refused to meet with the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas aimed at Trump's peace plan talks. Even the most pro-European member of the Trump's top team, and this is Politico's wording, by the way. I would not call Rubio most European, pro-European. He don't give a damn about Europe. He is a neocon, and neocons are allies, situational allies of the globalists. They are not natural allies, though. They are situational allies of the globalists, right? And the Rubio represents neocons, right? So he is not pro-European in any way, shape, or form, no. But nowadays, that's the wording that Politico used. So, okay, even the most pro-European member of the Trump's top team, Rubio, declined to meet with the Kallas, according to paper. And, well, this is good. This is good, by the way. Chaos is growing among so-called Western elites that are this hostile against Russia. So it's good. It's good. And there are tensions between American ruling class and European elites only gonna increase from now on, and at some point gonna become openly hostile, and quite soon, actually, I think. Right, and on this topic also, SVR, by the way, special or Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, did share some interesting report with the public here yesterday. I spoke about it in second. In my Patreon update yesterday. And dear friends, if you like my work, or if you want to support my work, please consider to join our community on Patreon. I have some extra. You will support my work by doing so, and also as a thank from me, I can promise that I will have some extra, exclusive content on Patreon and also on the boosted pages of mine on regular basis. And so yesterday I spoke about this on Patreon, that London, according to SVR, is preparing to thwart Trump's peace plan to save its military-industrial complex. Issues is much wider, obviously, and I partially spoke about this stuff in this program too. But of course, SVR, Press Research, SVR in its statements, not gonna come up with some extremely complex some analytic materials, right? They are making their statements as simple as possible, right? So that it will be easily digested by majority of their audience. Obviously, for the Russian leadership, they are doing different. They are presenting different volume of information, but nevertheless, that's what was shared with the public yesterday. Britain may attempt to undermine U.S. President Donald Trump's peacemaking stance by discrediting him. The Russian Foreign Intelligence Service press bureau reported the plan, in particular, is to undermine Trump's attempts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine by discrediting him. Plans have been focused on reviving the fake dossiers of former British intelligence officer Steele. You all know Steele dossier, isn't it? And the Russiagate stuff, accusing the White House chief and the members of his family of ties to Soviet and Russian intelligence agencies. The statement reads, this is a so-called insurance policy in case the US president peacekeeping activities prevent London from further profiting from the blood of Ukrainians. The service noted. Well, I will translate this as it is, man, in reality. Basically, SVR is saying that globalists gonna derail all the talks, all the attempts of US ruling class to de-escalate with Moscow, right? And in this attempt, they will go all the way, right, from attempts to discredit current leadership of US that represents this ruling class in the US, right, to some other hostilities also. And I will get to that other hostilities in a minute, but now let's continue with this report. Many sober-minded Europeans are wondering why Britain, despite their dire situation of their Ukrainian armed forces, is seeking to continue the conflict, and they're convincing its partners of the possibility of inflicting strategic defeat on Russia. And unfortunately, not that many sober-minded Europeans are wondering about this whole situation, because there are not that many sober-minded people in Europe left, right? Most of the population is being zombified by globalist propaganda. It's just factual. It might not sound nice. It does not, for sure, but it's true then, nevertheless, right? Most of the people in the West, in US also, by the way, but in this particular case, we are talking about Europe. So most of the people in Europe are zombified. So much so that they will never, ever, I think, will be able to face the reality. That's it, man. They are zombies. They might not look like zombies from the movies, but brain-wise, they are zombified. They will never, ever be able to face the reality, right? And operate based on actual reality, not some projections or some illusions that they've been told by MSM or propaganda. Anyways, let's continue. War revenues are effectively saving the British economy from bankruptcy. Once troubled defense industry enterprises have become the driving force of national industry. BAE Systems, Thales UK are implementing, and the Thales UK, for example, are implementing multi-billion-dollar contracts to manufacture military products for Kiev. It is planned to increase drone supplies to Kiev using EU funding. The expected revenue is over $6 billion, as we are explained. Nevertheless, the British are unlikely to step into the same river twice. Trump will put his allies in their place for attempting to exploit false and already debunked claims. And developments on the front lines will force London to seek a replacement for the blood money earned in Ukraine, the department added. And you know what? I'm not really okay when SVR's press service is issuing press releases in which this language is used that is more like if it's some kind of a freaking story, from some book. Language have to be strict. This is state institution, and even though this information was shared for the public, nevertheless, language. I noticed this, by the way, that press service of SVR is quite often is using this литературный язык. How should I say, man? This type of language, like, huh? Да, литературный язык. Как будет на английском? Literature language. Yes, it's not really official language, isn't it? It's more like you are writing some story or some book. That's what I mean. I want press services to be to use official language. Official language. It's a state institution. They should always use official language, right? This is my personal preference, by the way. It's none of my business what kind of language they will use, but you get the point, isn't it, of this from this release of the press release of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. We should expect a new series of Russiagate in the US, because clearly, by the way, I'm telling you, there is enough indicators that American ruling class is somehow getting bold enough now that they're going to actually attempt to fight back on the globalists, right? They're going to try it. They are trying it, by the way. And they should be ready, because globalists going to use not just their assets in Europe that under almost complete their control, but they're going to use their assets in US too. Assets that globalists have in US as, let's say, Democrat, for example, Democrat establishment. It's a globalist asset, right? Completely, by the way. Many so-called media outlets in the US, it's a globalist assets, right? Globalists infiltrated their intelligence community there big time. We know that as a fact because of the Russiagate stuff, isn't it? In which the intelligence community was directly involved. And deep state in general in US is infiltrated by globalists big time for decades now, And they might actually try. To take down Trump and also J.D. Vance, by the way. They're not going to stop on Trump. They might try to come up with this another Steele dossier type of nonsense to attack Trump, to attack his administration, and also J.D. Vance going to be target, because it's what good it makes for the globalists if Trump is replaced and his place is taken by J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is not a globalist asset. At least I don't think he is, right? So therefore, and if my understanding is correct, then both Trump and J.D. Vance should expect a massive media assault on them, right? And all sorts of activities to discredit them both, to crush them both. And basically, that's what SVR is saying. They are issuing warning they are informing Russian public and same time giving a warning to American administration that you know what, they are globalists are coming for you, man. They are coming for you, and I can understand why would Moscow try to help Trump's administration, because if there is any chances, by the way, even 1% chance or 0.5% or 0.1% chance that somehow American ruling class or America First forces manage to uh, manage to regain true control over the country, which will mean US will no longer can be used as a hammer by the globalists or by the Zionists, then if there is any chance to help these America First forces, by the way, I mean, we should do it. We should help them, right? Because, and I do understand that, America First is a general term, right? There can be different groups of interests, but eventually, true America First people might actually make it to their power, right? And if we can help them with that, we should. Because after Kennedy was killed, by the way, US transformed into a hammer in hands of Zionists and globalists, and nothing good come out of it, right? For humanity. All these decades and decades and decades, US is not a state. US is a hammer in the hands of Zionists and globalists, and how many countries were hammered by them using US? Dozens, right? Dozens. People are still not realizing that it's not the Washington that calling the shots, man. No, it's London that is calling the shots. It's globalists, by the way, that calling the shots, and they're Zionists and their allies that they have quite a lot in the US. Since the death of Kennedy, US President Washington was never calling the shots. It was pretending, yes, because that's their part of a game, but Washington was never actually in charge of anything. It was just a tool in hands of others. And by the way, this is not their only way. Globalists gonna attack US. In order to keep US in this proxy war, and in order to keep US chained, right? Globalists will go ahead with all sorts of other provocations too, not just media provocations, but they will go ahead with their terrorist activity too, I think, because yesterday I was reporting about this news, and then some technical issues happened exactly when I start talking about these reports on a massive volume of weapons being found on the border with Romania by Romanian border guards, on the border between Romania and Moldova. Hopefully, no technical issues will start now. And so, yes, you know the story, isn't it? A couple of days ago, Romanian border guards stopped the truck that managed to pass Moldova like it's nothing, by the way, and Ukraine too, I guess. So truck was stopped by Romanian border guards, and there was a whole lot of weapons, guided weapon systems there, by the way, in that truck, anti-tank guided missiles, among other things, and also manpads, portable air defense missile systems. Manpads, by the way. Initial reports were that this was a US-made Stinger manpads, but then more information came, including from Romanian media, that no, whole weapons, all of it, by the way, that was detained there by Romanian border guards or custom services, all weapons allegedly were Soviet-made or Soviet style. It was either Soviet-made, or maybe some of the weapons were Russian-made, and they were taken by key regimes, militaries, as a trophies at some points in the conflict. And Seems like globalists, London first of all, come up with the operation of false flag operation of a 9/11 scale. That's what they probably were planning to do. Some 9/11 scale operation, tremendous terrorist attack, right? After which, probably their calculus was in London or among globalists that the US will never even think to get out of this proxy war against Russia or to distance itself from the globalists, right? To try to get free from that freaking chain that globalists put on Washington, right, on US. And well, my guess is, by the way, and this is pure speculation on my part, right? My guess is that maybe Russian intelligence knew about this operation. Maybe Russian intelligence shared information with their American colleagues, with US intelligence, and maybe this truck was stopped by formerly Romanian customs and border guards because of American involvement. Then, probably after receiving information from Russia, US intelligence sent their team to make sure. I don't think they will just send their information. Probably they send their team to make sure that this truck is stopped. And the question is, if this is what was happening, I mean, what we know for now is that truck is factual, that was packed with weapons, right, including manpads. 8 or 9 manpads, at least. Dozens of anti-tank guided missiles and a lot of weapons. So that's factual. Truck was detained with a tremendous number of weapons. We also, I mean, we don't have to be geniuses to understand that those weapons could end up on the border with Romania only from Ukraine, right? They packed this truck with weapons, sent to Moldova. Moldovan regime is controlled by globalists, so therefore, obviously, Moldovan border guards or customs ignored it, and probably Moldovan secret services even escorted this truck to the border with Romania to make sure that nothing gonna happen there. And Romanians would not stop this truck. If not some outside involvement, Romanians would not stop it because remember, dear friends, how many times Georgian authorities, for example, arrested their vehicles in Georgia, and also Russian authorities did arrested vehicles here in Russia that came from Georgia, vehicles that before reaching into Georgia or Russia went through Moldova, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey to enter Southern Caucasus, then and from there Russia. And how many times those vehicles that I'm mentioning were packed with weapons, explosive materials? You remember the story, isn't it? I was reporting about it. So this is not the first time. This is not the first time London, British Secret Services, and their proxies in Kiev use this border with Romania, right? They never experienced no issues transferring any weapons or explosives. But this time, for whatever reason, Romanian border guards stopped it. So you tell me why. You tell me why. They never stopped before these vehicles packed with explosives. How are you going to miss that, man? Vehicle packed with explosives. Only way you're going to miss that is if you ignore the vehicle, right? So many times they ignore the vehicles packed with explosives, probably because of the orders that they receive. But now they did not. Only reason why they could not ignore now is if Americans went there, if FBI or I don't know, CIA or whomever, right, send their team in Romania to make sure that this vehicle is stopped. And they probably received information from Russia, I think. Maybe not. Maybe they receive information from Ukraine. They could, right? Because U.S. intelligence has a lot of their assets in Kiev control territory too. But in any ways, vehicle was stopped. Now you tell me, is this a one-off operation, you think, of globalists to conduct large-scale terrorist attacks somewhere in Europe and then blame Russia for that and therefore keep U.S. forever chained, forever in this war against Russia and forever chained? All globalists are planning some similar operations also. One truck was stopped. How many others didn't? What other terrorist plans they have, by the way, globalists have to somehow try and maintain U.S. as their chain dog? It's anybody's guess, isn't it? It's anybody's guess, and the situation is even worse, actually. Number of European officials, including from Baltic Chihuahua states, by the way, openly are saying that what they need now in the West, in the Europe, is some 9/11 scale situation to happen. And that will unite them all. They are saying it openly, by the way. You know, current and former officials in Europe are saying it openly, that they need something like 9/11 scale, not similar type of attack, but scale. And 9/11 was an unprecedented scale of attack on US, obviously, right? So they are planning, globalists are planning some unprecedented scale of terrorist attack on Europe, most likely on Europe, right? Somewhere in Europe. Then they will blame Russia for that. You know, they will provide false evidences. I mean, can you imagine if this truck managed to actually reach, let's say, France, and then anti-tanker guided weapon systems were used to target, for example, several nuclear power plants in France that could cause, technically speaking, even nuclear disaster. And then these manpads, 8 or 9 manpads or whatever number was there, were used to shut down planes, civilian planes, let's say in Paris or Marseille or in some other city in France, let's say. And if 8, 9 civilian planes were shut down, if several nuclear power plants were attacked, and then an investigation would be conducted, well, they will find the fragments of these Soviet-era weapons, right? It is easy to identify, by the way, fragments. Relatively easy for specialists. So they will see, wow, fragments are Soviet-era, and they will straight away begin pushing narrative, this was Russia. Why would Russia do this kind of stuff will never be asked. They are in control of narratives, right? They are in control of so-called media. They would never allow questions to arise. Why would Russia do anything like that? If they want to, they can obliterate you with a couple of missiles. So why would they bother to do this kind of stuff? It's a legit question, man. But no one would be able to ask these questions, man. And as I said, societies in the West are speaking zombified, majority, and they would not even try to ask a question or to find out. And if something like that will happen, and if Europe collectively, these globalists control Europe, would collectively blame Russia, you think, what would Washington do? They will confront Europe openly. They will say, I mean, you are freaking liars. No. They would not be able to, because they are cowards too, man. This American ruling class is a cowards, right? Otherwise, they would act very differently towards the globalists already. But they are cowards. They are trying to do something, but they are just cowards, man. They are afraid to be, direct and to stand for what they believe, man. They are just afraid. They're trying to play all sorts of games, right? While minimizing risks for themselves personally. So that's the risks, by the way, that the world is facing, actually. And globalists, trust me, man, globalists will not allow, absolutely not allow, this conflict to end now, at least, right? And until. Что? Ань. So yes, that's my take, by the way. Risks are real, and the global is going to try to derail even any chance whatsoever of de-escalation, actual de-escalation in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and this will continue until Russian troops will reach the borders of the Western Ukraine, at which point globalists will have no chance but to capitulate. That's it. And I guess, by the way, this update is far too long now than I would prefer. Yes, it is like 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I still have quite a number of news left, by the way. But you know what? Let me end the live stream now on that, and I will come back to you with the second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and maybe I will do second live stream later on today, or I will publish some short clips. Let's see, dear friends. Hopefully you did find news segment interesting, useful, maybe entertaining. Hopefully this is the case. And if so, please like the video, click that like button, leave some commentary, share video with your friends. And well, let me know, dear friends, share with you question that I received from Patreon from member of our community, and then I will highlight a super chat from Rumble, super chat from Scooby. So first question is from not, this is not the one, by the way. Yeah. So question is from Yaroslav Pelichek, on member of our Patreon community. Greetings, Levan. Comment says, I have another disturbing question. Expat American was forced to sign a year contract because he is a foreigner. He has 2 sons and is over 40. How he will evade the drones? I doubt if he has any military experience, and if he is able to run faster in his age. It is essential to evade the drones. Poor guy, why there is not any other possibility, like go into factory for 3 years, produce artillery shells or assemble their drones. He just loved Russia. I'm pissed off, frankly. And then Pavel Pelechek is sharing the link to their channel of expat, who is I have seen videos of that guy, by the way. Young man, relatively young man in his 40s, was traveling around Russia and making good videos, by the way, interesting videos. And on this particular link, some female was asking, addressing people who had their experience, like they will refuse their permanent residency in Russia if they did not serve or something. And well, Pavel, what can I say? I learned about this story from you. I never heard, by the way, that people were forced to serve in the military to gain either permanent residency or the citizenship. I know personally Ukrainian, right, who received citizenship here in Russia just recently, right? I know Ukrainian citizen from Kharkov region, by the way. He was living in Georgia for a long time before even coup d'etat happened in 2014. But nevertheless, he was still citizen of Ukraine, right? So he came to Russia and in a very short time, like 3 to 5 months time, he got Russian citizenship. And no one asked him to serve in an army or something. I mean, or to sign up contract for military. So more specifics are needed. In that video that you shared, Yaroslav, there is no much information. Female or maybe wife or girlfriend of this expat American is just sharing like short information, more asking others for information. So it's difficult to say. It's you need more data, isn't it? But to say that people being forced to serve in an army, that's a quite strong statement to make, isn't it? And this is not the case, right? No one forced this expat American to go to army, right? Maybe Russian side just refused him to give him a permanent residency. And maybe he find out that, well, if you serve in an army, then in that case, you guaranteed that you will get a permanent residency or even citizenship. And maybe he made a decision himself to sign up a contract and then become a citizen. But this is not being forced, by the way. I mean, Russia has a right to give her permanent residency or to refuse permanent residency or the citizenship to anyone, literally, right? So I think I have to disagree with you on the language. This is not forcing no one anything. He could go back to US. I don't know why Russia did not give him a permanent residency. Nuances need to be learned, right? Maybe he failed to ally with all the demands, it's a registration stuff, and there's some bureaucratic work that or work for needs to be done to make sure that bureaucracy is happy with you, right? When you are applying for documents. I went through this process, by the way. I end up in Russia in 2009, right? And I get citizenship in 2021, right? I get citizenship only in 2021. And I never blamed Russia for nothing, man. All I ever said about Russia is how grateful I am for allowing my family and myself to have to be here and to find safety, right? And I had to evacuate my family from Georgia when Saakashvili was there, in a president in charge. So more information is needed. I mean, we can use some general statements like people being forced to serve in army and this and that, but this is not really the truth, right? Russian authorities did not give him either citizenship or permanent residency, and I don't know why would that happen, but could happen. And maybe this person himself, a nice guy, by the way. I have seen his shorts on YouTube. I have nothing against the person, absolutely. And I think if he did not break any rules, man, he should get permanent residency. If he's a potentially good Russian citizen, man, why should he be refused, right? That's my personal take. But yet again, I don't know the details. All the details are known for migration service or whichever service is working on the matter, right? But he was not forced to do nothing, by the way. If he was refused to be given a permanent residency in Russia, he can go back to America, right? I mean, but he chose from this video that you share, Yaroslav. I didn't understood what was going on. There is nothing in that video that is saying that this person signed up for a contract or went to army. It's shorts, right? It's short video. But if he decided that he's gonna sign a contract and then apply for citizenship, this is his decision, right? No one forced him. He can go back to his country. So what is the deal? I don't get it. I'm telling you, man, me with my family, we end up in Russia in 2009. and we get Russian citizenship in 2021. And from 2009 to 2021, me personally, I was a stateless person because Saakashvili's regime took my citizenship, and I was stateless person. So we went through Agon Vodui Medne Truby, as one say goes here, right? But I never complained that we had to wait, like, I don't know, 10 years to get to citizenship. I was not even hoping to get citizenship because I knew process is long and difficult and stuff, and I just had no nerves, by the way, right? At one point to go through all this bureaucratic stuff, but eventually I did, and as you can see, I succeeded, my family succeeded, and we are Russian citizens now. So it's always individual situation that needs to be learned, by the way. If we go ahead with some generalizations, then we're going to miss the important points. So that's my answer to you. Thank you for sharing the information. Hopefully, the situation will be resolved because this person that you are talking about is a nice guy, man. From videos, what can I tell? He was, he was making positive, good videos. He was impressed himself when he was traveling around Russia. Some good stuff, man. Right? And channel is. Let me give you a name of the channel. Expat American, that's the name of the channel, isn't it? So that's what I can tell, Yaroslav. I don't know more details into the situation, but it's always individual stuff, right? We should not generalize because no one is forcing nobody here in Russia to go and serve anywhere. You have choice. If you want to, okay. If you don't, okay. That's how it is. If you want to become a Russian citizen as soon as possible, then, well, you might be given a choice. Serve then, right? Serve in army, prove that you are bringing value with you, and you will get citizenship. Some people are actually doing so, sign up for army to fast track their process of receiving Russian citizenship. Some don't, man. It's always individual, up to you. Okay, I guess I did answer there as much as I could, by the way, on the matter. Best of luck to expat American, his family. I think they are good people, and their situation will be resolved. I think there may be some misunderstandings or stuff. And by the way, no one should be too critical also due to Russia's strict rules right now, who can claim and who cannot. In Russia, after all, entire collective West is waging war against Russia, right? We are at war. So obviously, security services and all the state institutions, they are taking much more cautious approach than ever before because the situation is like that, right? Ань, хотела сказать что-то? Не, сейчас суперчат, вот. And there was a super chat, dear friends, from Scooby, super chat on Rumble. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat on Rumble, $5 donation. And their comment from Scooby is AI stands to create a massive unemployment and manipulate collective preferences of the masses, rendering individual income and price signals irrelevant. Will AI kill capitalism? Wow, that's a good question, isn't it, Scooby? That's a brilliant question, man. I did not think about this stuff, but I do now. And this is a brilliant question, man. Will AI kill capitalism? And there is so much talks, isn't it, that eventually AI gonna overtalk of many things, right? Including AI will take away tremendous volume of jobs from the people, and those people have to live somehow, right? They have to make a living. And on that question, I have seen, I have read, I have listened to some opinions that, well, AI is kind of, at some point AI itself will influence the economy in ways that gap between poor and rich will begin to get minimized and minimized, right? And allegedly, what some people are thinking is that allegedly AI will be so beneficial that governments will be able to kind of assist the people with some minimal needs, right? Eventually, even money can be nullified and some other system deployed there. Some sort of social engineering programs already being tested in number of areas. Some call it some score, citizen score, or what is the name? So I don't know, Scooby. This is a question that is very deep, and you need some professional in the topic, in not just AI topic but economical topic, to give you their like serious deep answer. But I definitely see link there between AI possible developments in the future and end of capitalism as we knew it, traditional form of capitalism, because yeah, I mean, at some point, I don't know, man. This is just too difficult. Difficult, man. I have not think about this stuff before, but I can clearly see link there between further development of AI and end of capitalism, because corporations going to become absolutely massive, government's going to become totally control for everything. Humans going to lose so many jobs, by the way. So many. We are talking about billions of jobs being lost to robotics stuff, right? What these humans gonna do? Some will adapt, okay, but you're not gonna be able to compete with the robots, right? Anything that can be done mechanically, maybe with the exception of some art, right? Art forms and some творческая движуха, that will probably still in high demand, but otherwise, any physical work that human can do, robots can do too, and better, right? They're not gonna whine about her back pain or stuff. Those robots, they're not gonna whine about her tea break being too late, right? So, what those humans gonna do, man? Now or in the future, foreseeable future, they're gonna gain some benefits, right? Either corporations, I don't think corporations will, but their governments have to provide some benefits, and eventually we might end up in a situation when people are not really working actually, but are receiving some money, receiving some not necessarily money, but receiving some means to have a living and potentially even decent living, right? It sounds like utopia, but I mean, AIs can do a lot of stuff, by the way. Scooby is commenting right now on a Rumble that Elon, and let me highlight this your comment also, Scooby. So Elon Musk thinks most employment will be gone in 15, 20 years if government redistributes resources on a massive scale and AI continues to manipulate preferences. It's not capitalism anymore. And I mean, I agree with you. That's why I see straight away, even though I never think about the matter, I definitely did see link between potential further development of AI and capitalism, because yes, what is capitalism if distribution of the wealth generally is in hands of a government then at some point, and it will be because yet again tremendous number of people gonna lose the jobs. Some will adapt, some will do some stuff anyways, but most probably would not. And how those people gonna live, man? How they gonna make a living? It's gonna be a redistribution of the wealth on a ground scale, right? And that's what governments do. And that is no longer, yes, free market economy or capitalist system, probably. But yet again, I'm not an expert in economical stuff or AI stuff, by the way. So it is difficult for me to give you a deep answer on the subject, but link is there, I think, for sure, of AI development. We're going to end up in a very different society in 30, 50 years time from now. By the way. Everything going to be just very different than it is now. Probably social score systems will be introduced all over the place. Money will disappear. And you will just get some basic social score in the beginning. And then, depend on your behavior, depend on your liking or disliking. By powerful, you will get more or less social score. And I think that's another danger that we are moving towards too, because independent thinkers, they are never liked much, right? Especially by powerful. And I can see that many people ending up in a deep trouble just because who they are, just because of their opposition, let's say, to powerful in one way or another. But that's a whole different story too. Although there is a link there too. Thank you very much, Scooby, for an interesting question, fundamental question, basically, because it's about our near future, right? And future of our kids and their kids we're talking about. So yes, things gonna change, man, big time. And we cannot even imagine probably how significant those changes is gonna be. So thank you, Scooby. Thank you very much for your very interesting questions and the comments, and for your super chat on Rumble and $5 donation. Thank you. And dear friends, there was a donation on PayPal, a $20 donation from Natalia and Bold Eagle, member of our community and commentator. Thank you for the updates, Levan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind words and attention and support. Thank you, dear friends. And if I may, I will end this live stream now. There was no super chat more or questions from other support platforms. So I will end this live stream now. After that, maybe I will publish one or two shorter videos on YouTube and Rumble from this live stream, and then I will prepare next update, and let's see how weather gonna be today. Maybe I will record another walk and talk video for our Patreon and Boosty community, and I'll try to publish some short clips from there on YouTube and Rumble too. I wanted to do it yesterday also, but when I came home, and until I did the montage on the video, until I published it on Patreon and Boosty, it was just too late. And maybe today it will take lesser time. Let's see. And dear friends, if you like my work, please like the video, share, leave some commentary. And if you want to support her, please subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I'm trying to publish extra content on a regular basis. Plus, you will just, if you want to support in general, by the way, not because of my extra content there, but if you want to support my work, please sign on my Patreon and Boosty. And there is also PayPal for support and All the links on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a wonderful day, and bye for now. Take care. John, thank you very much for your assistance. I'm addressing our moderator on YouTube and Rumble, John Bonzo Beans. Thank you for your help and assistance. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.